Hi guys. Hey, I'm going to share another interesting experience I've been having. So I live in Southern California, and one thing that we have here is called date palm trees, and they grow like in front of businesses. I walk a fair amount, and I'll sometimes discover that they've dropped a lot of these little date fruits onto the sidewalk. Let me check that this camera is recording the way I want it to. So they're little orange fruits, and when I encounter them all scattered, they'll be close together on the sidewalk, like 50 or 70 of them sometimes. A lot of times the gardeners will sweep them up before I happen upon them, but sometimes they're there, and if they're there, I'll pick them up and put them in my bag and eat them. They taste very nice. They taste like dates. They're mostly seed. They're an orange fruit around the outside of the seed, and then a rock hard seed inside. Now, I'd like for my interest to get inside that seed, to eat whatever's inside that seed, but it's really hard to get in. I took a hammer and I held the seed with one hand, or the fingers of one hand, and tried to break that date seed open, and it wouldn't. Your teeth, forget it, you'll never open it that way. Then I baked the seeds to dry them out, and I thought maybe then I'd be able to open it with a hammer, but no. So what I finally did was put the seeds, well, I live mostly on milk and cream from cows, so I put the seeds in my milk container. I'll show them to you here. So you can see those dark shapes at the bottom of the milk container are some of those date seeds. They're black because, as I say, I baked them. Those particular seeds have been in there for about 4 weeks, and they're in there 24/7. Now, when I finish that milk, I take a funnel. I have this big funnel, and I just put more milk in there from a new milk milk that I bought at the store, and I keep those seeds immersed. Eventually I'll drink down, and I get down to the bottom, and maybe a seed comes out when I tip the jug, and I can test to see if it's softened. The idea is either that the shells were softened, or I think that they're probably, like most seeds, they're two halves that are fused together or joined together, and eventually they'll come apart and I can get inside the seed that way. Or maybe they'll become moldy, and that will soften the seed and I can get inside that way. Once I get inside, I'll be curious to see what they're like inside, and I'll eat them and enjoy them. But like I say, for the moment, they're still almost as hard as they were a month ago when I first immersed them. Now, the nice thing about keeping them in the milk container is that I have to store this milk container anyway. So I'm getting two things done because I'm also softening my seeds. I could keep them in water and just put a container of water in the corner and not drink that water, but then it would just take up extra space. This way I would have to store the milk container anyway, so I'm doing this experiment. It's not really an experiment, but kind of like that. But at the same time, I'm storing the milk, which I would have to do anyway. Now, eventually this container may spring a leak. I've had this container for a month, and so far it's been fine. And they are tough, these containers, but I have had one spring a little leak in the past. Not when I was doing this, but for some other reason I kept it for a while. But when the other one sprang a leak, it was a very small leak, and I noticed it and so I just took care of it. I used the funnel to transfer out of that container into a new container, and I was fine again. So should this thing spring a leak, or should I just decide I want to put in a new container, I can dump, the seeds will come out. They're not bigger than the nozzle opening at the top. And then I'll just put them in a new container. I don't know, if the seeds get moldy, the shells, I think, they probably won't soften. If the things ever do open up, it'll probably because the seeds, the adhesive that keeps the seeds together will soften enough that they'll split. That's probably what will happen. But if instead I get in by the seeds becoming moldy, well, if they split, I'll have to throw the shell halves away because they'll still be really hard. If it all becomes moldy, I don't mind eating moldy stuff. I would just eat it really slowly, a little bit at a time. Like if I got a moldy seed coming out of there, I'd chew on it a bit, perhaps, and then maybe swallow a little bit of it, and then spit the rest back into the milk container. And then later I'd maybe eat a little more of that moldy seed. It might be moldy shell that's soft enough to eat, or I don't know, maybe the shell will get moldy but the insides will be edible. But you can eat moldy things. You maybe should be careful. I think in this case it will be safe. I would not eat it. I don't know how it's going to taste. I don't think moldy things, I have eaten bits of them at times, and they taste kind of bad, so you can't eat them fast or in large amounts. But I would probably chew it a little bit, just swallow a bit of it, and then spit it back in and let it sit in the milk some more. And then when my body was ready again, I perhaps would chew a little more, spit it back in. I don't know. We'll see when we come to it, if we come to it. But I think it's an interesting experiment. Now, if they split in half, possibly they won't be moldy at all, and I can just eat what's inside. And that might taste pretty nice. I think a lot of the nuts we commonly eat are just the seeds of various plants. I think peanuts are seeds. I think almonds are seeds. I think most of them are seeds. So I think that whatever's inside those date seeds is going to taste kind of interesting and probably good. But it remains to be seen. It doesn't have to be milk. I mean, if you wanted to run this experiment and you like orange juice, you could keep them in orange juice and use a funnel as well. I don't think you can buy dates in the market, though, that have these rock-hard seeds. I'm not sure. When I think about dates I've eaten that came from a market, I think they had softer seeds. But I've put soft seeds into milk too, and it still makes them easier to open. When you finally reach them after you've drunk the milk down, softer seeds become easier to open because the milk kind of loosens up that seam where the two halves are joined. I'm trying to think what else I can say about this, and nothing's coming to mind. So if you have anything, any comments or questions, write them to me, and I guess I'll try to keep you updated on what happens. But that's where I'm at right now.